You were made to count. I might have to shift this because the dogs are out. You were made to count. You were created to have a drive to be significant, to make a difference in this world, to be an agent of change and a creator of goodness. But it's so easy for us to miss this in the grind of day to day, or I know for me in this last season, there were times when it felt like the difficulties of life or mistakes that I made or may have made or the challenges that I was facing meant that door was closed, but it's not. And our pain and our suffering can become part of this as well, because we're made to do this together with God. And you can't give up on this, no matter how young you are. I was reading today in the New York Times, there's an article about quarter life crisis, not just midlife crisis. Young people, 16 to 36, are finding the task of discovering self and significant and what shall I do with my life to be increasingly challenging. A third of Gen Z are now living at home with their parents or with other relatives, plan to keep on doing that. There's all kinds of barriers there. And those challenges are there when we get old also. So I want to read for you today from Dallas Willard's book, The Divine Conspiracy, about why you were created, and then talk to you about what to do about that today. Dallas says, every last one of us has a kingdom or a queendom or a government, a realm that is uniquely our own, where our choice determines what happens. Now, this is sometimes talked about under the banner of agency, personhood, which is terribly important to your life and to mine. A realm that is uniquely our own, where our choice, your choice, determine what happens. Here's a truth that reaches into the deepest part of what it means to be a person. We are made to have dominion, that's a biblical term from Genesis 1, within an appropriate domain of reality. This is the core of the likeness or image of God in us, and is the basis of the destiny for which we were formed. We are all of us never-ceasing spiritual beings with a unique eternal calling to count for good in God's great universe. You were made to count. It's your destiny. Dallas goes on, our kingdom, quote unquote, that's the biblical word, is simply the range of our effective will. Whatever we genuinely have say over is in our kingdom. So you got a kingdom, you got a queendom. And our having say over something is precisely what places it within our kingdom. In creating human beings, God made them to rule, to reign, to have dominion in a limited sphere. Only so can they be persons. Any being that has say over nothing at all is no person. We only have to imagine what that would be like to see that this is so. Such persons would not even be able to command their own body or their own thoughts. They would be reduced to complete passive observers who count for nothing, who make no difference. And you see this drive in little tiny persons who are so young. I was recently at a family reunion for the Hall family, my mom's side of the family. There were 84 of us gathered. And it was a wonderful time. It was so good being with everybody. Hi, some of you watched this, and it was so good to be with you, so good to hear stories, but amazing to see little tiny people. There's a lot of folks. My cousin Larry Palladino, all by himself, has 23 grandchildren. Well, not by himself, there were other people involved, but so it's a prolific family, and little children's drive towards personhood is so remarkable. Somebody in the family has a 4-year-old child that recently acquired a sibling, and the 4-year-old went to his mom and said, I have decided now that I am a big brother, I will not poop in my pants anymore. And he reached out his hand and initiated shaking hands with his mother. He was making a covenant. I am extending the range of my kingdom. I will be in charge of my pants. I will take responsibility. Now that I recognize there is another life that needs me, that I need to give some inspiration to, I'm making a change. I'm putting a stake in the ground. That's what it means to be a person. The sense of having some degree of control over things is now recognized as a vital factor in both mental and physical life, and can make the difference between life and death in those who are seriously ill. People in that state who are assigned just the care of a pet or sometimes even a plant live longer than those who have nothing in their kingdom. Anyone who has raised a child or even supervised the work of others knows how important it is to let them do it, whatever it may be, and to do so as soon as that is practically feasible. Obviously, having a place of rule goes to the very heart of who we are, our integrity, strength, and competence. And then he goes on to say how we're to do this. Keeping in mind these truths about personality, we will not be surprised at the Bible's simple, consistent picture of human beings in relationship to God. God equipped us for this task, to exercise dominion, to care for the earth. We'll talk about that more, to add value to what we're doing. God equipped us for this task by framing our nature to function in a conscious, personal relationship of interactive responsibility with Him. Let me say that again. God equipped us for this by framing our nature to function in a conscious, personal relationship of interactive responsibility with Him. We are meant to exercise our rule, and we'll talk more about words like rule and reign and leadership, which is so vital, but often so toxic, so freighted, so misunderstood in our day. We're meant to exercise this only in union with God as He acts with us. He intended to be our constant companion or co-worker. You got a co-worker in the creative enterprise of life on earth. That is what His love for us means in practical terms. So now, today, exercise agency, exercise dominion, bring value and worth to at least one other person, and ask God to help you to do this. Today, the invitation for you and I is to walk through our day and to see other people also as agents, as persons, as people who have kingdoms, as image bearers. And then to ask, God, what might I do to bring life and goodness and health and strength to this person? And then listen and look for God to give us leadership or guidance. I was talking to my friend John 2 weeks ago. He was my first boss. And he was telling me that recently he's come to understand, he prays more than he thought that he would, that there's a kind of quietness of thought that takes place in his mind before God, even though he might not sometimes be terribly aware of that, where he is listening to God and God is often speaking to him. And he had a brother in the hospital and he had this thought, you need to go and see him. And so he did. And while he was there, again, he had this thought. And John, whatever the spectrum with pious is on one end, John is on the other end of that spectrum in ways that would be wonderful to tell you about, but I cannot. But they have brought me great joy. So he's not the kind of guy to come up with weird God stories, but he was telling me about when he was in this hospital room and he had this thought, you need to speak words of blessing to your brother. So he said to his brother Ralph, you know, we were raised, John grew up Minnesota, Scandinavian, didn't use words like love or affection a lot like our kids do, but I want you to know I care for you. I want you to know I really love you. And his brother was able to say thank you. And John left, and 20 minutes later, his brother died. When John's sister-in-law went into the room, she found that his life had ended. And the last words he ever heard were his brother John saying to him, I really care about you. I love you. So we never know how it is that God is going to lead us. But we were made to act in partnership with God. I got another story, but I'll save that one for another time. Today, you are made to make a difference. No matter how educated or uneducated, no matter what age, no matter what pain or suffering you have been through, God will use that. God will use your gifts and God will use your scars. Ask God today, would you be my coworker? Would you lead me and guide me? What good thing could I do? Who could I care for? What person or even dog might I bless? You are made to count, and you can do that today. We'll talk about it more tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us here at BecomeNew.me. If you'd like to receive the daily emails that go along with each video, let us know at BecomeNew.me@gmail.com. Or if you want prayer, you can text us at 855-888-0444.